workplace, hazardous, materials, information, system. Class A materials pose an explosion danger because the gas is being held in a container under pressure. May cause its container to explode if heated. May also cause the container to explode if dropped. When handling Class A materials, you should handle with care. Do not drop the container. Keep the container away from potential sources of ignition. And store the container in designated areas. Examples of Class A materials are gas cylinders for oxyacetylene welding or water disinfection. Class B materials will burn and are therefore potential fire hazards. They can burn at relatively low temperatures. Flammable materials catch fire at lower temperatures than combustible materials. They may also burst into flames spontaneously in air or may release a flammable gas on contact with water. They could potentially cause a fire when exposed to heat, sparks, or flames as a result of friction. When handling Class B materials, you should keep the material away from heat sources and other combustible materials. Never smoke when working with or near combustible materials. Store the containers in designated areas. Examples of Class B flammable and combustible materials are white phosphorus, acetone, and butane. Flammable liquids such as acetone are more easily ignited than combustible liquids like kerosene. Class C, oxidizing material. This class includes materials which provide oxygen or similar substances and which increase the risk of fire if they come into contact with flammable or combustible materials. Class C materials pose a fire and/or explosion risk in the presence of flammable or combustible materials. They may also cause fire when they come in contact with combustible material such as wood. They may react violently or cause an explosion when they come in contact with combustible materials such as fuels. They may also burn skin and your eyes upon contact. When handling Class C materials, you should wear proper protective equipment, including eye, face, and hand protection, and protective clothing. All of it should be CSA approved. Keep the material away from combustible materials. Keep the material away from sources of ignition. When working with Class C materials, never smoke near the material. And remember, store the containers in designated areas. Examples of Class C oxidizing materials are sodium hypochlorite, perchlorate acid, inorganic peroxides. Class D, poisonous and infectious materials. There are 3 divisions to this class. The first division is poisonous and infectious materials with an immediate and serious toxic effect. These materials can cause the death of a person exposed to small amounts. Class D Division I materials are a potentially fatal poisonous substance. They may cause permanent damage if inhaled or swallowed, or if they enter the body through skin contact. They may also burn eyes or skin upon contact. When handling Class D Division I materials, you should handle the material with extreme caution. Avoid contact with your skin or eyes by wearing the proper protective equipment, including eye, face, hand protection, and protective clothing, CSA approved. Avoid inhaling by working in well-ventilated areas and/or wearing respiratory equipment. Wash and shower thoroughly after using Class D materials. Store the containers in designated areas. Examples of Class D materials are sodium cyanide and hydrogen sulfide. Class D Division II, poisonous and infectious materials with other toxic effects. This division includes materials causing immediate eye and/or skin irritation, as well as those which can cause long-term effects in a person who is repeatedly exposed to small amounts. Class D Division II materials are poisonous substances that are not immediately dangerous to health. They may cause death or permanent damage as a result of repeated exposures over a period of time. They may also be a skin or eye irritant, a sensitizer, which produces a chemical allergy, or they may cause cancer or birth defects and sterility. When handling Class D Division II materials, you should avoid contact with the skin or your eyes by wearing the proper protective equipment, including eye, face, and hand protection and protective clothing, all CSA approved. Avoid inhaling by working in a well-ventilated area and wearing respiratory equipment. Store the containers in designated areas. Examples of Class D materials are acetone, which is an irritant, and asbestos, which is a carcinogen. Class D, Division III, represents poisonous and infectious materials, biohazardous infectious materials. This division includes materials which contain harmful microorganisms. Class D, Division III materials may cause a serious disease resulting in illness or death. When handling Class D Division III materials, you should take every measure to avoid contamination. Handle the material only when fully protected by proper designated CSA-approved safety equipment. Handle the material in designated areas where engineering controls are in place to prevent exposure. Examples of Class D Division III materials are cultures or diagnostic specimens such as you would find in hospital waste, Salmonella bacteria or hepatitis B virus. Class E, corrosive material. Class E materials are acid or caustic materials which can destroy your skin and or eat through metals. Class E materials cause severe eye and skin irritation upon contact, cause severe tissue damage with prolonged contact, and may be harmful if inhaled. When handling Class E materials, you should keep containers tightly closed. Avoid contact with the skin or eyes by wearing the proper protective safety equipment, including eye, face, hand protection, and protective clothing, all CSA approved. Avoid inhaling by working in a well-ventilated area and wearing respiratory equipment. Examples of Class E materials are muriatic acid and lye. Class F, dangerously reactive material. Class F materials can undergo dangerous reaction if subject to heat, pressure, shock, or allowed contact with water. Class F materials are very unstable. They may react with water to release a toxin or flammable gas. They may explode as a result of shock, friction, or an increase in temperature. Explosion may also occur if heated when in a closed container. They may also undergo vigorous polymerization. When handling Class F materials, you should keep material away from heat, open containers carefully, and do not drop them. Store the material in a cool, flame-proof designated area. Examples of Class F dangerously reactive material is plastic monomers such as butadiene or some cyanides. Both programs offer financial assistance to employers. Once you've identified the program you'd like to apply for, contact your local programs officer who will help you through the application process. The project sponsor is the organization that signs the contract with Service Canada, formerly known as HRDC. The town of Rankin Inlet, for example, can apply for youth participants to work on their project. There are two important questions that must be addressed during the application process.
Who will be the project sponsor? How can you network with other communities? Networking in scrap metal projects increases loads, creating higher volume, saving both communities time and money.
For more information on youth employment programs and strategies, contact your local Service Canada Centre or HRDC offices at the following web address.
The most important reason to recycle is to preserve the integrity of the North, making our communities better places to live, work, and play.
Challenge yourself with the following quiz based on the video you just watched. Question number 1. Non-ferrous metals are magnetic. False. Non-ferrous metals are non-magnetic. Question number 2. Aluminum is a non-ferrous metal. True. Question number 3. Old derelict cars or empty containers should be filled to compact scrap before shipping. True. Empty cars and empty containers can be used to compact your load and maximize your tonnage. Question number 4. Fuel tanks do not need to be drained properly before being dismantled or removed. False. Fuel tanks must be drained properly before being dismantled or removed. Question number 5. WHMIS procedures must be followed when handling hazardous materials. True. You must follow all safety procedures. Question number 6. Data sheets contain important safety and handling information. True. Data sheets should be used to refer to find out the content of hazardous materials. Question number 7. Not all accidents need to be reported to a supervisor. False. All accidents must be reported to a supervisor with as much detail as possible. Question number 8. CFCs and Freon must be removed by a licensed technician. True. Question number 9. PCBs can be found in many different household appliances. True. For more information on PCBs and their location in household appliances, consult your scrap metal recycling guide. Question number 10. The North is a pristine wilderness that must be preserved for generations to come. True. If we all work together and work safely, scrap metal recycling can be an important part of the preservation of the North.